Hi, it's Penny here. Welcome to another reading vlog. So normally when I start my reading vlogs, I like to do it a bit more together, like feeling a bit more together, but I've been sick. I'm feeling really unmotivated. If we don't start this now, I'm not going to start it. And also I'm feeling the kind of unmotivated where maybe I would actually like to just sit down and read, but this is going to be my first reading vlog for the Magical Readathon, so I need to work out what I'm reading for that. So I think this week, since it's the first week, I'm going to try and get to most of my short reads. I'm also hoping that if I read a bunch of short things, I can somehow like jumpstart my motivation. Like if I'm finishing things and achieving things, I'll feel like, yeah, let's do things. Maybe. Anyway, I have a stack here of the things that are either shorter things or ebook things. So I guess I'm going to start with this one. I'm actually not planning to read the whole book of this. I've read this before on audiobook, but then I found out it had pictures, so I bought the book. I have realized I think it only has 4 pictures, so did I need to buy the book for 4 pictures? Probably not, but whatever. Also, this book is a short story anthology and it's based around seasons. Now, this might be the autumn equinox part of the Magical Readathon. If you don't know what the Magical Readathon is, I will leave links down below. But it's a readathon. You read books based on prompts. It's a fun time. So it's the autumn equinox part of the Magical Readathon, but in New Zealand, it's spring. And I decided I was going to reread this short story anthology in spring because the book starts in spring. And I'm going to read one short story every month because there are 12. So the first one is called The Wish Bridge. From memory, because I have read this before, I thought that the stories would have more impact for me if I read them like slowly over time rather than like all in one go. So the first one is about this young girl who lives on this bridge. Her mother always lived on this bridge. Now she lives on this bridge and basically grants wishes. There's a bunch of rules to it, but I've forgotten, so I guess I'll remember it once I get back into it. But basically the bridge moves around and she ends up making a connection with this guy. So that's a pretty short story, like 30 pages. So I'll try and read that first. Also, when I'm doing ebook reading time, which is usually like when I'm in bed and I don't want to have the light on, I do have, there's a new Murderbot short story called Rapport something 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 something. It's the something somethings that I use for the reading prompt. I love Murderbot, so a new little short story. I think it's also about 30 pages. I'm going to read that. I'm also reminded by my Kobo that I'm reading Censor by Junji Ito. Junji Ito writes horror mangas. This is something about like magical hair and some kind of cult around it. I don't know. I wasn't that into the first 30%, but I'm going to try and continue that. I'm wondering if I should start it again so that I can justify matching it against a Magical Readathon prompt. We'll see. So I do also have Age of Death on ebook from the library. Do I? Do you know I have planned to, but as I mentioned, I've been unmotivated. So did I actually follow through on the plan? I did not follow through on the plan. Can I get it from the library? I can. Okay, all good. Lucky. So this is more of a classic fantasy with like a world where humans thought that elves were gods, but then they killed one and discovered they're not, and there's kind of this big conflict being brewing. Age of Death is the 5th? I've lost where I am. It probably tells me here. The 5th book in the Legends of the First Empire series. So at this point, I actually think most of this one is going to be set in the underworld. What does that mean exactly? I guess we'll find out. I have been enjoying this series, although I did think the last book was mostly set up for this book. So I'm hoping this one will have a decent amount of payoff. It's a 6-book series, so there's just this book and the next one to go, and then I'll be done with that. I'll talk more about all of these, I guess, as I actually read them. So that kind of gives me something physical and something digital to read next. If I have more time before I find the motivation to talk to you again, I also have The Pony Party by Loney M. Setnik. This is actually Lemony Snicket, the Unauthorized autobiography. How can an autobiography be unauthorized? Anyway, if you don't know, this is kind of like a little side story something. I don't really know what to expect from it, but set in the world of a series of unfortunate events, which I really love. So I'm hoping I will enjoy this. And it should be a fairly quick read because it's a lot of like articles and notes and weird things. So hopefully I'll be able to get through that quickly. And then I guess the main thing I actually want to read, as well as all these little things, is Frankenstein. This is a weird little edition I got for $1 at a book fair, and it has weird little pictures inside it. I have read Frankenstein before, but I'm going to reread it and see if I still enjoy it, because I think it's been about 10 years since I read it. And since I have this lovely edition, I thought it would be fun to read it in this edition and look at the pictures. So that kind of seems like a lot of things to be planning to read this week, but I don't know if I'll finish Age of Death. These are all upside down, but whatever. I'm not planning to read all of this. And Frankenstein is pretty short, and this is a kid's book, so like I think even if I'm feeling unmotivated, I should be able to read all of those. I do also have more Junji Ito graphic novels, and I have this random graphic novel, The Many Deaths of Lila Starr, which would also be a reread. I also know I love this, so maybe I'll fit that in as well. Who knows? I guess we'll see. I don't think I've ever filmed on this camera from this angle before, and I'm wondering if it gives away too many of my secrets, like my post-it notes, my messy desk. But anyway, I am feeling somewhat more together. Am I feeling motivated? Maybe not, but I did manage to sort out my to-do list, do some gardening, go out for a walk, do some video editing. So like I've been getting some things done, and I've done some reading. So even though I don't know that I'm feeling exactly motivated, I'm like tricking myself into feeling like I must be because I'm getting things done. Oh, I'm also just remembered looking out the window here. I did some washing, which I have got to bring in before the sun goes down. So let's do this update so I can do that. I did also read a decent amount, and I put the stack in front of me so we can talk through it in the order of the stack. So firstly, we have The Pony Party, or the Unauthorized. Actually, at the front of this, it doesn't even say that. The Unauthorized Autobiography of Lemony Snicket. I've been reading it without the dust jacket just because it is... this is a secondhand copy. It's a little bit ripped. It just gets in the way. So I've been reading it like this, and I'm about halfway through. To be honest, the introduction had me laughing so much. Like, it was hilarious. It's kind of written like Daniel Handler, who's the actual author of this, who I think when I talked about this previously, I said was not a nice guy. Possibly that might be not entirely true. He might be okay. Who knows? I don't know him. People on the internet have different opinions, but regardless, he kind of pretends that he's like the representative of Lemony Snicket. And so the beginning is an introduction by him that includes a letter, which includes a diary entry, which includes a conversation with a woman talking about a document. So it's like very multi-level kind of Inception stuff going on, and the way that it keeps referencing different things, and even just the way that it's written, it's like the kind of thing where it sets up a sentence so that you think you know how the sentence is going to end, and then it goes in a bizarre direction. Like this one line, she says, she cast a desperate glance around the lobby of the building, which was as empty as a beehive. So at first you're thinking, okay, it's empty, because she said it's empty. But then a beehive isn't really empty. So you think, is that saying that it's not empty? Then it continues to say, when all of the bees have been driven out of it. So you're like, oh, okay, so it is empty. So like within that one little bit, you've like changed your mind about what it's even saying multiple times. And it just like is sentence after sentence of that kind of nonsense. And I don't know, I can see some people not liking it, but I think if you like a series of unfortunate events, you will like that bit. For the rest of it, it kind of comes and goes. Some bits I think are hilarious. Other bits I am enjoying. I definitely think some of it is going over my head because it's been so long since I read a series of unfortunate events. And at this point, I'm actually thinking that this would be like really good supplementary material if you were rereading a series of unfortunate events, because it's a lot of like meetings and notes and information that kind of goes alongside the events of a series of unfortunate events. Because a series of unfortunate events is mainly telling the story of the 3 Baudelaire orphans, but there's a bunch of kind of adults around them that are some kind of spy network trying to investigate and trying to support them, but secretly. And this is the communications and the stuff going on with those adults. Anyway, I'm about halfway through this. I am enjoying it. I will sit down and finish it. It won't take that long. I will say there's a lot of photographs in this, and I can't help but wonder if some of them are actually, like, I can't decide. Are these like photos from historical events? Are these just random photos? Were these put together specifically for this book? Or are some of them actually like photos from Daniel Handler's life or his childhood? It's all very mysterious. Anyway, enjoying that. Then next on my stack is my Kobo, which was here to remind me to talk about Rapport, the Murderbot short story. To be honest, not enough Murderbot for me. It's actually told from the perspective of one of the crew of Art. Art is also known as, well, his crew know him as Perry. They know him as Perry. And then when Murderbot meets him, Murderbot calls him Asshole Research Transport, or Art for short. So in this one, we're getting one of his crew's perspective, and it's kind of just after Art has first met Murderbot, which Art is trying to keep secret, but also like Murderbot and Art have a very close friendship. And Art's kind of like learnt a lot from Murderbot that they're wanting to bring up in conversation, but they also don't want to talk about Murderbot. And the crew is like, what's going on here, Perry? And it's just kind of like, again, supplementary material. I don't actually think the story has much to it. The crew is kind of doing this infiltration project, but nothing really happens with that plot much. It's more about the crew just having a conversation with Perry and realizing that he's maybe got some kind of relationship going on. If you've read Murderbot, I think you could really enjoy it. But I guess don't go in expecting the short story to have more than just like a little side view, like a different view of something that you know happened. Also, it's set just after the second book in the Murderbot series, and so Goodreads lists it as like 2.5, but I think you're best to read it like after book 7 even, when you've got to know Art's crew a little bit more. Anyway, does my Kobo need to stand in for anything else to talk about? I haven't started Age of Death, and I didn't continue Censor, but tomorrow morning when I have some ebook reading time, I didn't read any ebook this morning because I was too tired. But maybe tomorrow morning I will choose to read one of these. I guess we'll see. Anyway, as well, Januaries. So I read The Wish Bridge. The deal with this bridge is that when you come across it, it like moves every full moon. It only appears when there's a full moon, and it's in a different position every time. And when you find it, you get to choose, basically there's 3 decisions. You can choose to have a wish or a truth. You can choose to be forgiven for something or have a future wrong permitted. And lastly, you can choose to either have something removed or to get something back. And so most of the story is just about this young woman who's on the bridge, and this guy happens to come across the bridge, and he doesn't want a wish or anything. He just wants to get to know her, and that's when she discovers that she actually doesn't exist when the bridge doesn't exist. And he kind of makes her think that maybe she does want to be a person more than just a person on the bridge. And he continuously keeps finding this bridge like over time, and that's kind of like a little cute romance story. As well, there's like a backdrop story where these different people involved in this love triangle keep coming across the bridge, and she's just like, wow, these people are making really terrible decisions, but her job is just to do what they ask for, so she has to do it. Just a really lovely, clever little story. I really like it. I think maybe that story might be one of my favorite stories in this anthology, and maybe since I'm going to read this over a year, I will try and keep track of the stories a bit better and work out where they all stand. Maybe I'll do a ranking. Maybe I will make sure to rate every story. I don't know. I guess we'll see what I'm doing with this. But first short story down for that. Then I guess next I'm going to pick up Frankenstein, which I am looking forward to, although I'm not looking forward to this small font. So we'll see how we go with that. I am hoping, it's already Wednesday, to be honest, so 2 days later since I first started this vlog, but I should still have plenty of time to read this by the end of the week. It is fairly short. I'm a little bit worried, even though I've read this before. I don't think the writing style is that hard to get through, even though sometimes older books can be like that. I think I really love Frankenstein. That's my memory of it, so let's hope it's true, and I just fly through it. the other thing I did want to mention, or the other book I have in my stack, is this, which turned up at the library, and that means I need to fit it onto my Magical Readathon or my September reading plans, and it doesn't really fit. So I have mixed feelings about this book already. Like, it's Maggie Stiefvater, who I love, but it's also a weird book about Nazis staying in an American hotel during World War II as like prisoners of war or something. I'm not hyped about the synopsis, but I do like Maggie Stiefvater, so I'm hoping to love this. Anyway, I guess if I'm gonna fit it on my monthly reading, it won't be till later in the month, so I'll put it aside. But if I want to get to this, I need to try and keep being productive, I guess, and get through my reading. So I guess I'll try and do that. Hello. So I've realized that I forgot to tell you that I did start an audiobook. So I thought I would update you actually while I play Hello Kitty Adventure Island, because I do want to be better at just updating you as I read things, as I think things about the books that I'm reading. So I started reading Dreamer's Pool. It's called Dreamer's Pool, and it's the first book in the Blackthorn and Grimm trilogy by Juliet Marillier. Now, I really loved the Seven Waters series by Juliet Marillier, but I didn't really like. Well, it was fine, but I didn't love her latest book. I forgot what it's called. Wow. The series is called the Heartwood series? Hearthwood? Oh no. The Amber Owl. That's what it's called. I didn't really love that. But Blackthorn and Grimm is, I think, early 2000s. And I'm hoping to really love it, to be honest. So when I tried the first chapter of it, either I didn't remember or I didn't pick up on kind of how much of a kind of a bitchy woman. I don't know if the best way to phrase it. Like, Blackthorn is really prickly, and I love her for that. Especially because I don't think I've even talked about this book in this vlog in the intro, but she's a healer, so you kind of expect healers to be very caring and nice, but she's much more prickly, which I like, just that tone of things. And then on the other side of things, the other half of the duo is Grimm, and he comes across as this like real tough guy. Initially they met in like prison, right? So like he comes across as this real tough guy, but it also becomes really clear very quickly that he's also kind of just like a teddy bear guy who wants to help and protect everyone, and I love him. And he keeps calling Blackthorn Lady, and I think that's because that was her original name, but just the way he keeps talking about her and like wanting to keep her safe, I love it. As you know, I'm not usually one for romance, but I did like the original Seven Waters books. Like, not the whole series, but the first couple of books were romances that I could really buy into. So I'm thinking I might like this one. Also, there's kind of this bigger story where Blackthorn had a plan to kind of get vengeance on this guy that had led to her being in prison. But instead, this Fae guy came along and said, nope, I'm going to basically buy you your freedom and save your life. But in return, you have to spend 7 years away from this town, not trying to do vengeance. And anytime people ask for your help, you have to use your powers to help them, which she sees as somewhat of a challenge. So now her and Grimm are kind of off, and they're going to have to help anyone who asks. There has also been another perspective chapter, which I wasn't expecting, which is basically this guy who is betrothed to marry someone. And I don't know, that bit's a little bit cheesy, but I wasn't expecting that perspective. And I think that Blackthorn is going to be a healer for kind of his new, I don't know what the word is, lordship area. Anyway, I think that's all going to work together somehow. So I'll be interested to see how it all works out. Anyway, I think I'm only like 10% in with that, but I'm hoping to go for a run tomorrow if the weather behaves. So hopefully I'll be able to read some more, and hopefully I will keep loving it. But for now, I'm going to keep playing Hello Kitty Adventure Island. Hello. So somehow it is 24 hours later, pretty much. I have Hello Kitty to go and play after I update you. I did also just finish some video editing, so I'm feeling productive. Is feeling productive the same thing as feeling motivated? I still think not quite, but maybe I'm closer to motivated as well, maybe. So last night, after I talked to you, I did also read some things. So I finished off The Pony Party. I think with this one, like, I enjoyed it. It started out amazing, like hilarious. But like I said, it's really more supplementary material, and there never actually became like a proper plot for this book or like any kind of proper narrative thread. It's just a bunch of like supplementary material. That's the best way to say it. So an okay read, but definitely something I need to keep for if I ever do a reread of A Series of Unfortunate Events, which I will actually most definitely do at some point. Then after I finished that, I did actually start Frankenstein. I'm probably going to put another picture here because this is not very representative of what I'm reading because there's no title on the front. All I read is the very beginning. So I'd kind of forgotten that Frankenstein is framed in this interesting way. So initially you're getting the story of this man who's trying to find a path through the Northern Ocean. I am not a Northern Hemisphere girl, so my geography is not great up there. But basically, he's trying to find a way through up there. And while he's doing this, they see this man on a sled and they're like, what? Why would he be there? Because they're like way up near, I want to say Antarctica, but that's down near me, right? Oh no. I promise my geography is not that bad. Maybe late night updates are not the best for my brain power. Anyway, the next day, they see this other guy on a sled and he needs help. So they stop and they help this guy. And it turns out he's kind of chasing this other guy. And these two guys get talking and they're kind of like, oh, maybe we're best friends now. And then this guy that they saved from this sled off the ice is going to tell his story, which I think turns into the story of Frankenstein. Also, let's be clear, Frankenstein is the scientist, not the monster. So the other funny thing about this book, well, there's a few things, but when I went to log this on Storygraph, I discovered that last time I read this 10 years ago, I only gave it 2 stars, and that was not my memory of it at all. I thought that I remembered really enjoying the philosophy of it and the idea of this monster and his experience. So I guess I gave it 2 stars because I definitely would have struggled with the writing style. I will admit this edition has like a little introduction by some guy. Oh, 2 guys. Well, R.E. Dowse and D.J. Palmer. I assume guys. I started reading it. The writing was painful, and he kept referring, or they kept referring, to Mary Shelley as Godwin's daughter and the poet's wife. And I got really mad about it, and I decided I don't care about this introduction, and I skipped it. But there are definitely sentences in the main story as well where it's just a sentence, not like we would write a sentence these days. It's really long and complicated, and there's all these words we wouldn't use anymore. So, like, it's not that it's unreadable, it's just that it definitely takes a little bit more brain power when the sentences are so long to, like, hold the whole sentence in your mind. Maybe, again, this is the problem with late night reading. But I did feel like once I got into it, I was enjoying it. And I still feel like I really like, I don't know, I'm enjoying the style of it. I'm enjoying the philosophy of it. There's only been a hint of it yet, but I know there's more to come. But now I'm questioning myself because, like, I'm going into this thinking that I'm going to love it. But then Past Me only gave it 2 stars. That's not what not how I rewrote the past in my mind. So anyway, when I go to bed, I will read some more of that. Also, this morning I did go for a run and I continued Dreamer's Pool. How far through am I now? Maybe 40%? So basically at this point, Blackthorn and Grimm have settled in this cottage and they're working as like the wise woman and like just general labourer for this village. And there's kind of not that much happening there, but it's okay. The part of the plot that's actually gotten more interesting is this other guy who's betrothed to this princess. The princess has arrived and things are off. Things are not right. And it's kind of like up until this point when she arrived, he was kind of living this fairy tale in his head of like falling in love with her and having her arrive and like having this fairy tale marriage. And then now that things are not going that way, he's like disappointed, but also like, well, I shouldn't have been disappointed because I should have known. But the way that things are off, I'm really enjoying. Also, the princess has this little dog, Bramble, and I love him. And the dog was like her closest companion, according to her letters, now won't stand to be around her. but instead has found solace with this prince guy, and it's just adorable. I love it. And I have some theories about what's going on, and obviously Blackthorn and Grimm are going to get involved with helping out, I assume. Anyway, I'm quite enjoying it. Something about Juliet Marillier's writing, I really need to think about what is it that's missing from the Amber Owl in terms of that. Part of it is just the Amber Owl, the characters felt so much younger, whereas in Dreamer's Pool, I really feel like I'm getting an adult fantasy story. And I'm enjoying the depth of the adult characters and just... Okay, I just got distracted by Jace reminding me that we needed to put out the recycling. But anyway, while I did that, I thought about it. I think what it is that each character has such a distinct voice, so they feel like real people, and so somehow that makes their story more engaging. So I don't actually think I'm going to go for a run for the next couple of days. I might have to find some housework to do so that I can keep listening to that. Is that everything? Probably. Hello. So I really wanted to have an afternoon nap this afternoon. However, I have convinced myself to film my monthly reading wrap-up instead. I have actually realised that probably my lack of motivation is caused by a lack of iron. Mostly mental issues come down to an actual physical issue. So I'll try and fix that, but also try and keep being motivated, although, you know, if I want to lie down and read for a while, that's not a bad thing either, right? So reading Frankenstein, I am now up to the bit where Frankenstein's going to tell his story. I'm about 100 pages in, and we've gotten mostly Victor Frankenstein's story of creating the monster and then his family drama. I feel like it actually starts with Victor Frankenstein talking a lot about his family, and I think if you're going into this like expecting like a horror monster story, that would possibly be quite confusing and disappointing for you. Maybe that's part of why I gave it 2 stars last time, I'm not sure. But this time I kind of know how his family's fitting into it, so I was okay with it. I also think even though the writing is very like old-fashioned, there are also times when it's really beautiful, like the way that Mary Shelley will describe the scene, but also the emotions of the characters, and they are all very emotionally dramatic. But the way that Mary Shelley describes it sometimes is really lovely. So that kind of balances out. Sometimes the sentences are a bit harder to read, but sometimes the payoff is worth it. I also feel like the whole bit about Frankenstein's story, to me, felt very thrillerish. Like I felt like there are a lot of conventions that we get in modern mystery thrillers included in that section. But also, Victor Frankenstein is such a frustrating idiot. Like, he creates this monster and then he thinks, oh, it's ugly. Like, you already saw it before you brought it to life, so I don't know why you're only just seeing this now. But then as well, he just runs off, and when he comes back and the monster's gone, he's like, kind of like, oh, that's fine. And I mean, he's a bit traumatized by things and is now doing different things in his life, but he's not doing anything practical, like trying to sort out what's happened to this monster or anything like that. Like, what an idiot. Anyway, that did lead to some not great consequences and a lot more emotional dramatics. And now I've gotten to the bit where Frankenstein's monster is going to tell his story, which I'm really looking forward to because that's the bit I remember really liking. So maybe once I use up all my energy filming my wrap up, I'll spend a little bit more time reading this. Because I have been tired, I haven't done any ebook reading, so I still haven't finished Censor. I did realize though, amongst all the Junji Ito things that newly came out at the library, we have Junji Ito's Frankenstein. So I'm thinking now I'll just wait till next week to start Age of Death, and maybe I'm going to read... Well, I have to finish Censor first, but then I'll read Junji Ito's Frankenstein, and it'll be quite good to compare it to the actual Frankenstein. The only other thing I did read is I did do some housework, and I listened to some more of Dreamer's Pool. How far through am I? About halfway. Firstly, I'm really loving Blackthorn and Grimm kind of creating this like introvert lifestyle, and every time Blackthorn's healing people and they're telling her all about their lives or about the gossip of the village, she's like, I wish he'd kind of just shut up and I could spend some more time by myself. And it's very relatable. I kind of love her. But then as well, the way this mystery around the princess and also these other things that are going on in the village, the way that mystery is coming together, just so many bits have me going like, oh no, because you can like see people doing things and you know that it's going to go badly. And I just have somehow been tricked into caring a lot about the characters. So assuming I don't feel like death tomorrow, I'm going to go for a run tomorrow and hopefully I'll be able to make a lot more progress on that then. And I guess that's all, and I should go and film my wrap up.
Lazy Sunday mornings, hiding under covers. I don't mind staying in with you. Play your favorite movie, laying right beside me. I don't mind when it's just us.
I think I talked about wanting to always update as soon as I like read things, and then immediately after that I just didn't feel like being on camera anymore. So now I am here to wrap up the vlog because I have finished all the things. Quite a few things I think, so let's try and keep track of them. Well, maybe not that many. Firstly, Frankenstein. I finished this. There was definitely quite a few things in here that I had forgotten. I definitely got very frustrated and quite sick of Victor Frankenstein by the end. Just the way that like every time something goes wrong, he like falls apart and has some kind of like mental breakdown when constantly everything that's happening has been brought upon himself by himself. Like he's to blame for everything. And there's kind of a bit where he talks about being blameless or something, and then there's another bit where the monster talks about it all being his fault, and I'm like, switch that. Although in this one, I think the first time I read this I felt quite sympathetic towards the monster, and in this one still a little bit, but not as much, because there's definitely still where he is the same way. Like every time something doesn't go his way, he's like having a big mental breakdown and wanting to like kill people, which is a little bit extreme, although given his situation maybe a little bit more understandable and maybe still more practical than Victor Frankenstein's response to everything, which is just like, let's have a cry in bed or something. I mean, maybe Victor Frankenstein is somewhat relatable in that instance, but frustrating because he just keeps like kind of trying to pretend his problems aren't there and then hoping they'll go away. Anyway, in terms of the book, I don't know, I kind of liked it. I do think it's very rambly and the plot goes all over the place. I will say, I don't have it open anymore. I did read Junji Ito's Frankenstein, and he cut down a lot of the plot to kind of like streamline things a lot. And I kind of wish Mary Shelley had done this. Like, I don't think this needed, like, if I was reviewing this as a modern book, I would say there was a lot of like extra stuff in here that didn't need to be in there. Even though I love the way that Mary Shelley described these like very dramatic emotions, also, there were a lot of them. But reading this book in context, you can see a lot of the things that are in novels today, kind of the beginning of them in this, and that was nice to see. And I think you can really appreciate what this is doing at the time. I still struggle to believe a bunch of things, like when the monster is like speaking so eloquently, I'm like, really? Like, I get how he learned to read and speak English, but it's a stretch. It's a stretch. Anyway, I'm glad I reread this because I definitely have a different perspective than I did 10 years ago. I'm definitely a different reader than I was 10 years ago. I was surprised though how little I struggled with the writing once I got into it. It's definitely an interesting story. I can see why it's lasted as long as it has. So also, Junji Ito's Frankenstein. I keep trying to like pick it up, but I've already moved my Kobo onto Age of Death, and also like that's never good for holding up anyway. So Frankenstein by Junji Ito. I did like how he kind of streamlined the plot. I also think he drew Frankenstein and the monster. He drew him in a way that really fit Mary Shelley's description of him being big, but also very agile. Whereas like kind of the classic Frankenstein that you see doesn't really fit that at all. Also, though, Junji Ito changed it to make like there's one bit where the monster's eating a bear, whereas Mary Shelley's one is able to survive on like very little food. And I don't think Mary Shelley's monster would kill animals, to be honest, because his beef is with humans, not nature. He loves nature for the most part. Like, he spends a lot of time enjoying the world around him when he's in a good mood. Anyway, so I didn't like some of the changes of Junji Ito's Frankenstein, and I feel like there were some horrific scenes, but for the most part, I don't know if it would have been better actually if I'd read it completely separately, although it was interesting to compare it. I don't know. Anyway, it was fine. I like some changes. I didn't like other changes. What I did realize, I don't know if I'd realized this last time I talked to you, but basically 46% of that book is Junji Ito's Frankenstein, and the rest is going to be some kind of like shorter stories. So I'm going to read those slowly over time, I think, because I may be already a little bit Junji Ito'd out. I think when I got all these new Junji Itos that my library got in, I think I thought they were all relatively short, and I've realized now a lot of them are like 400 pages, so I won't be reading those quickly. As well, I did finish off Dreamer's Pool, and I really loved it. I think the ending was actually pretty predictable once it came down to it, but that didn't mean it wasn't satisfying, like so emotionally satisfying. And I just grew to love all the characters so much, and I'm so excited to continue that series now and get to see more of Blackthorn and Grimm. And we got a little taste at the end kind of like Blackthorn perhaps having more magical abilities, and I hope as well we'll still get more of this prince and princess, because I think they're quite interesting characters as well. I don't know, as I say, I think this initial story maybe was a little bit predictable, but the way the characters was written was so good that it's such a great setup for like the rest of a trilogy. I honestly have no idea what the next two books might cover, but I'm excited about it. And I should say, I think I went into this like a little bit afraid because it was more fantasy romance that I might not like it, but the romance is so light, and it's the kind of romance I like where it's not really overt romance. It's more just like two people slowly forming a bond and learning to trust each other. And like between Blackthorn and Grimm, nothing has happened yet. They're just still, you know, learning to trust each other and being there to support each other through difficult times. And I love it. Anyway, I love that. How many times can I say it? And I'm so glad, because after the Amber Owl, I was a little bit afraid that I wouldn't like other Juliet Marillier stuff, but this was good. So did I read anything else? I have started the books for my next vlog, but I think once I stop filming for this, I will start that vlog and I'll tell you about them over there. So I guess that's all. Let me know if you've read any of these things. I'm sure a lot of you have read Frankenstein. So let's chat down in the comments. Do subscribe if you'd like to see more of my bookish videos. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.